Hi again, Gregg Bell, the News Tribune. Happy New Year to you from CenturyLink Field in Seattle. It's over. The 2017 season is over. The Seahawks' run of 5 consecutive playoff appearances is over. And it appears the era of championship football in Seattle is over too, at least the players who have been part of it. Some of them believe they're done too. Michael Bennett told me after the game at his locker, I'm probably not going to be back next year. He thinks the Seahawks are going to go younger on the defensive line and across the team. And he thinks he'll be one of the first exits of that. He's 32 years old. He still has 3 years left on his contract extension he signed in December 2016. That was to get $17.5 million guaranteed up front then while he could still earn it. This year he had 8.5 sacks, which was somewhat remarkable with what he played through. Plantar fascia. He actually had a torn plantar fascia in his foot. He said most people couldn't even walk from that, and he continued to play through it. He banged his knee about a month ago in the win over Philadelphia. And then he played with a grotesquely bent toe that's bothered him for a couple years. A lightning rod, of course, nationally, Michael Bennett, social activism, his claims that a Las Vegas Police Department mistreated him and treated him for racial reasons, mistreated him. In an incident in August. He's been sitting for national anthems before games since the preseason opener. He did it again on Sunday with 7 other Seahawks. His is maybe just the first of many departures. The Legion of Boom is no longer. They're Richard Sherman, Cam Chancellor's season-ending injuries. Chancellor's has his career in some doubt with a neck injury. Earl Thomas, of course, last week in Dallas, going to the Cowboys locker room, said, "Come get me," when Seattle, quote, "kicks me to the curb." And now this team goes 9-7 after making moves like trading for Sheldon Richardson, trading for Dwayne Brown, trading high draft picks that John Schneider has not done in the past. He did that this year during this season to win now, to win, to keep this championship window open, and it didn't happen. They lost today 26-24 to the Cardinals in a game that, as Pete Carroll said, was a microcosm for their entire season. Starting atrociously slow, 24 total yards in the first half and no points, and then grabbing themselves and getting back into the game and then killing themselves at the end. Carroll said it was a complete pattern of the entire season. Carroll himself had some of the blame for this. The penalties start at the top. I mean, the second most penalty yards in NFL history. If you have more penalty yards than anybody but the Oakland Raiders of 2011, 1,342 yards, 16 fewer than the Raiders had in 2011 for most in NFL history. If you have that, that starts at the top. And that starts with coaching, that starts with discipline of those who make the penalties. And these penalties were not just offsides and jumping false starts. Thomas Rawls taunting a Cardinal after going 12 yards and out of bounds to get to the Seahawks to the 25-yard line of the Cardinals. That 15-yard penalty pushed them out of field goal range, which I can hear you, maybe it's not field goal range with Blair Walsh and his kicking at the end of this season. But it cost the Seahawks 3 points. They ended up punting at the end of that drive. Bobby Wagner, a guy you would not think would do this. 3rd down, incomplete pass on a great play by Shaquille Griffin, knocking down a pass to Larry Fitzgerald on the opposite sideline here. Ball's away, Drew Stanton throws the ball. He's standing in front of Bobby Wagner. Wagner, who had blitzed, shoves him in the chest, knocks Stanton down. Now you can say Stanton acted a little bit on a Vlade Divac type flop, but why is Wagner even hitting him? There's no reason to. It's totally unnecessary, just like Frank Clark had done a couple drives earlier. Well, Wagner's penalty extended the Cardinals' drive that ended up in the winning field goal with about 2.5 minutes left. It's been that kind of season. It was that kind of season for Seattle. Penalties, as I said, I have to start at the top, and Pete Carroll said as much after the game that he takes responsibility for that. But this team has a lot more issues than penalties. We've seen them age. We've seen the running game be non-existent. Even though they got 101 yards today, 36 of them by Russell Wilson. Michael Davis got going, but he's a former practice squad player. Until November, he spent the first 10 games on the practice squad. Rawls was supposed to be the lead back, failed in his chance to be that. Eddie Lacy, $2.8 million guaranteed, was inactive again today. 4th time this season he was a healthy inactive. That's because the Seahawks are trying to save, and did, $62,500 in per game bonuses against the salary cap. That has to be redone. The starting with running backs, at the offensive line, Luke Joeckel, who was on a one-year contract with $7 million guaranteed, almost certainly won't be re-signed. Jermaine Ifedi still has issues with penalties and pass blocking at right tackle. But the one thing that has the Seahawks that you can say they have, that a lot of teams that aren't in the playoffs and are drafting in the teens, as the Seahawks will this spring, don't have, is a franchise quarterback with a Super Bowl ring. And that is what the Seahawks will build around now. I see them building around Russell Wilson on offense and their $43 million linebacker Bobby Wagner on defense. And then everything else is fair game, as I think Michael Bennett and a lot of those, Earl Thomas last week, sense in that locker room. Today's game, of course, the season was over with 2 minutes left when Carolina officially lost at Atlanta 22-12. Cam Newton threw 3 interceptions today. So throughout the game, those paying attention, and there were Seahawk players who won't readily admit, but that did know how Carolina was doing. But throughout the game, never got the sense that the Panthers were going to win that game. So even if the Seahawks had pulled out a win because of Doug Baldwin's 2 touchdown catches, including one that gave them a lead late 24-23, even if the Seahawks had won, they would not have advanced to the postseason and would have been out at 10-6. Another ridiculously slow start. It said 24 yards in the first half. Then the numbers in the second half, total yardage, 272 to 69. The Seahawks outgained the Cardinals in the second half, yet they let a quarterback, Drew Stanton, who completed only 15 of 34 passes and reportedly was playing on a torn ACL, beat them on their home field, their 4th loss of the season at home and 3rd in the last 2 months. That is why the Seahawks are going home and not playing in the playoffs for the first time since 2011. I will be at Seahawk headquarters tomorrow, New Year's Day, for a locker cleanout day that is going to be somber, more somber than it's been in 6 years. And Pete Carroll's going to hold a season-ending press conference on Tuesday morning. I'll be there for that as well. Again, Happy New Year to you. Be safe, be kind, hug your loved ones, which I'm about to go home and do for my first free January in about 14 years. Thank you for everything. Thank you for watching, for following, for reading, and for, I hope, subscribing to the News Tribune. Take care and have a great 2018.